Hello friends from a very cold Scotland. This video is not for paramotor pilots or paramotor wannabe pilots. This is for your long-suffering spouses. Honey, can I take up paramotoring?
Nope.
Honey, can I take up paramotoring?
Yes.
Hello. So I thought I'd make this video because I've not seen one that exists. Maybe there is. So this video comes off the back of a number of comments I've had. One in particular where it goes along the lines of how do I convince my wife that paramotoring is safe so that she lets me do it, basically. I think one of the big answers to that is get your partner involved in it. It probably looks wrong sticking what appears to be a fan on your back and throwing yourself into the air.
Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it.
Is it safe?
Yes, it is, if taken seriously. All paramotor pilots that I've ever met, and I mean this, take the sport very seriously. It is, after all, aviation. Your instructor, your fellow paramotor pilots won't let you dick around anyway. Paramotor pilots aren't a bunch of crazy idiots with a death wish, but it's far safer than you think. In fact, it's actually safer, statistically, than riding a motorbike down the road. So, you know, it isn't as bad as you think. Don't get me wrong, there are accidents, and I would be lying to you if I said there wasn't any. 99% of the accidents that happen are due to operator error, and that is people taking chances. For example, not doing their pre-flight checks properly. If you do your pre-flight checks properly, it's safe. Ground starting your paramotor, that is a big no-no. You never start your paramotor unless it's on your back or secure in, I don't know, a car carrier or something that's not going to let this thing go off the ground if the throttle's stuck. Flying too low, too fast, flying over water, doing acrobatics, etc., etc., that increases the risk. Another thing is flying without a reserve chute. Now, I know paramotor pilots that have been flying for over 10 years. I know one in particular that's been doing the sport since its inception, say 25, 30 years ago, and they've never had to throw a reserve chute. So it's better to have it than not need it. Now, my wife was very understanding, and she said, I'm happy for you to take up the sport, as long as you've got a reserve, you know? And I totally agree with her. So that was one of the first things I bought when I had my own equipment. See this video. Let's go and get close and personal with a typical paramotor. There's Poppy the dog. She loves rocks. She's not very bright. Okay, behold, a typical paramotor. I'm going to sit in it, okay, and show you what it looks like, and we'll fire it up. You can hear what this thing sounds like. Always have your throttle in hand so you can press the stop button in case there's a problem. There she is. Lovely snow. So there you go. Always make sure you have plenty of power. Stop button. There you go. There's your paramotor. I'm going to put this away because I didn't think it was going to be this bad. We're going to talk about the wing next, probably far more important than this, would you believe? Well, it's freezing out there, so I've come into the garage, or Paramotor headquarters. So I thought I'd ask my wife, what kind of things would she like to hear on such a video? So I've pretty much listed a few things. The first one is engine failures. So you're flying along and your engine cuts out. It's an engine after all, they can go wrong. It's not as dramatic as you think. Would you believe that an engine failure is not actually a big deal? When you're flying a paramotor, you don't fly over, you know, areas where there's no way if you had an emergency you'd be able to land. So I'm quite lucky around where we live. There's lots of fields, lots of countryside. So I fly where if I had an engine failure, I would be able to land. And what happens is, if your engine cuts out, the first thing you do is you try and restart it. And if it doesn't restart, then, you know, you've set yourself up for a normal landing as if you were landing anyway. So it's not a big deal. You just look out for electricity pylons, you look for a nice big field, and you go in and you basically do a standard landing as if you had an engine on your back. And that's it really. And then you phone your wife or friends to come and pick you up. So basically engine failures, not a big deal. So the other thing my wife was talking about was navigation, and that's a good thing to talk about because it's not like you strap a paramotor on your back and just go flying. It can be quite disorientating when you're in the air, looking down and going, where was I? You know, you can drift sometimes in the wind, things like that. So I use a piece of software called Gaggle. It's fantastic, and it's a very good bit of kit that most paramotor pilots use. And what it does is it tracks your flight. You can also join a group and you can make sure all your friends are in that group so you can see where everybody is if you're flying in groups. My wife's part of that group, so whenever I launch, my wife gets a message to say I'm in the air and she can sit and track my flight. Also, the good thing about it is if you start getting a little bit lost, it will take you by the most direct route back to where you took off. So it's a really good bit of software. It shows you your height, your speed, it calculates your fuel. So, you know, it's a really good bit of kit to have. It's got a great feature on it. If I were to land and not move for 15 minutes because I'm maybe in trouble, it will send an emergency message to my wife with a pin to show where I am. So for safety, navigation, and knowing where your friends are, knowing where your route is that you're planning, your fuel, your height, it's a great piece of kit. Another good app is windy.com. Now, you download that as an app and that will tell you the wind speed in the location that you want to fly. So for paramotor pilots, a forward launch, which is the preferred launch, up to about 6-7 miles per hour, and you can quite easily do a forward launch. The other thing is, if you're going to take the sport up, you've got to find a reputable club, a reputable instructor, and get proper training. And the good thing about joining a club is, it's not just your instructor. All the paramotor pilots in that club will all have something to offer. I've learned just as much from fellow pilots, and it's a social thing as well. And last but by no means least is the wing itself. It's probably the most important part of all the equipment that we have. And the reason for that is if the engine fails, if anything fails, then the wing will take you home. Right then, here we are in a field next to a house. I'll lay the wing out and let you see what it looks like. I thought I'd put my windsock up just to get a rough idea of wind, direction and speed. Paramotor pilots usually tend to bring an anemometer with them as well, so we can get the exact wind speed as well. So that just gives us that extra peace of mind. Right then, here's a wing. Lovely. Now, it may look quite flimsy, but in reality, this thing is absolutely solid when it's in the air. And in fact, very, very, very difficult to collapse while it's flying. In fact, here's a video of Tucker Gott, a famous paramotor pilot, who is trying his damnedest to actually force a wing to collapse, and he's not been able to do it.
Collapse-wise, it just wants to fly. It wants to reinflate and fly and send you on your merry way. So let's pull some big ears. Mojo don't care. Let's try a little asymmetric collapse. Mojo don't care. Look, I'm literally flying on less than half of my wing in a straight line.
Right then, so on closer inspection, it looks quite flimsy, doesn't it? The reality is this is actually made from a very, very tough nylon thing called ripstop, and then it's got these interweaving cross stitches, so it's incredibly difficult to rip in any way, shape or form. It's also incredibly tough. I'll kite it in a minute and you can see what it looks like when it's in the air. Again, looking at the wind direction, it's coming this way, so I would launch that way so that these cells, see here, will fill up with air when it's in the air, and it'll be incredibly solid. Now then, the other thing to talk about are these lines. These are all the lines that connect to what's called a riser. You can just see those loops there, and that's what connects onto the paramotor. Now these lines, again, are incredibly tough. They don't look it, but are actually made of Kevlar. You could pull a car with these lines. That's how tough it is. So there's no chance of these snapping or this wing ripping in any way, shape or form once you're up in the air. So that was just a quick semi-inflate there, just to show you, the wing's pretty solid. It wants to fly. So once you're in the air, that's going to stay up, and it's going to keep you up in the air with those incredibly tough Kevlar lines, ripstop nylon fabric. There is no way that thing is just going to rip and collapse, So very safe, very safe. A lot of engineering's gone into those wings, and you can see it. Look at it just now. It just wants to fly. Another quick question that's always asked is what conditions do you fly in? Again, paramotor pilots don't tend to just go, I'm going to fly in any conditions. Is it okay to fly your paramotor in the winter? If it's raining, if it's too windy, if it's snowing, we don't fly. Nobody takes chances. So the weather's got to be favourable. In the winter, you can pretty much fly any time of the day during daylight hours. And in the summer, you tend to be limited to evenings or mornings, because through the day there's quite a lot of thermal activity with the heat rising, and that can make a really turbulent, choppy flight. So paramotor pilots don't tend to take many chances by doing that. So you'll usually find us flying in the mornings in the summer or evenings, and in the winter pretty much any time while there's daylight and the weather's favourable. Okay, hopefully I'll get in the air and show you this all happening.
Is it safe?
No, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. Be careful.
Shut up, Dustin. It is safe. That's what I've been trying to say. Good morning, spouses of paramotor pilots to be from a very frosty Scotland. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The paramotor is packed up. There it is. Where a bunch of us are off to a field, where a bunch of us are flying this morning. So I'll get to put into practice what I've been talking about over the last few days. See you there. Here's the field, as you can see, nice and big. There's the windsocks. Let's kick some ass. So I'll get in the seat. Here we go. Okay, here we go. That's old age, that noise. A-lines. Always check for tangles first. Watch Justin go. Look at that. Beautiful launch. Beautiful. And the other side. Okay. Right. Now, let's check. Brakes are free and clear. Don't want any tangles. Clear. Make sure we've got power. Plenty of power there. And we're up. Woo! It's a cold one. Right then, so where were we? So quite a lot of countryside. So as I was saying before, I'm always looking for an out. So if I had an engine failure now, I would maybe hopefully try and fly into the wind. So the wind's coming that way, so I would land over one of these fields here. Again, there's no electricity pylon, so this, perfect. I'd maybe do a wee spin round there and land down there. Look at all that. So as you can see, the wing is absolutely solid. Absolutely gorgeous morning. I've got my heated gilet or tank top, shall we call it, on as well, so keeping me nice and warm. Here's Gaggle. Have a look at Gaggle. See that? I hope you can see that. I'll just move that down. There you go. So there's Gaggle. You can see I took off up here. I'm flying that direction. There's my height. My fuel. There's 3 aircraft in the area. It will always tell me if one's near me. The wind's coming from this direction. So it's all good. And if I want to fly back to where I lifted off, I just follow the yellow arrow there. So I can look on Gaggle as well and see where my friends are. So Justin and Chris. I think Justin went to the right there. Chris looks like he's going a bit more over towards the town of Peterhead over there. So here we are. Here's a look from this angle. As you can see, the wind's looking good. There's Gaggle on my phone. I'm freezing my bits off. I need to find my heated gloves. Smooth day. Beautiful. Now, the trick is to try and land as close to your car as possible so you don't have to do the walk of shame. Oh. Hello, coming in for final, throw your tray tables away, and all that bash. There's a good chap. Right, just get hold of the brakes, out of the seat. There you go. So this is my landing gear. As soon as I'm committed and I'm happy that a good landing is going to be had, I'll cut the engine. Like now. And we'll pull on the brake a little bit in a minute. Ting nicely. So this is what would happen if I had an engine out. I would just float down. Look at that. Beautiful. And then pull on the brakes a little bit. There we go. And pull hard. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Beautiful. Oh, and that's a landing for you. We'll turn around and let the wing down. It wants to fly. Look at that. Oh. There you go. Well, that's me home safely. End of mission. I hope that helped and put your mind at rest as to the safety of paramotoring. Till the next video.